The Galactic Council chamber was vast enough to hold the representatives of over 200 star systems, each species seated in their own uniquely designed enclave. The room hummed with a low buzz of voices, whispers in thousands of alien tongues, the subtle click of claws on polished floors and the occasional metallic clang of a mechanical limb adjusting position. High above, the massive dome of translucent alloy filtered light from the distant binary stars, casting a shifting kaleidoscope of colors across the assembly. At the heart of this cosmic conclave sat the Council's president, a tall, lithe figure from the aquarine species, whose watery skin shimmered in the changing light. But all eyes were fixed on the human ambassador, Commander Elise Rourke, standing with arms crossed before the central dais. Her sharp gaze cut through the cacophony of murmurs as she addressed the Council. "We do not ask for permission to save lives." The room grew silent. Elise's voice rang clear, unwavering. "The Zorthak system is dying. Civil war has ravaged their homeworld. Civilians are starving. Hospitals crushed beneath bombardments. We sent aid ships. We evacuated refugees. And yes, we broke the neutrality protocols you cherish so dearly." A low murmur of disapproval rippled through the council chambers. "Humanity," Elise continued, "does not thrive on passivity. When a species faces extinction, we act. Not because you command us, but because it is right." From the shadowed enclave of the Jithari, Ambassador Kalev Ta's elongated eyes narrowed dangerously. His voice, sharp and hissing, cut through the tension. "Your defiance threatens the fragile balance we maintain. You overstep the bounds of council law and disrespect the sovereignty of our order. Your reckless interference endangers us all." Elise's jaw tightened, but her tone remained steady. "If protecting innocence upsets your balance, then perhaps your balance is broken." The session descended into chaos. Voices clamored in dozens of languages. Accusations flew, threats veiled in diplomacy. The council president struggled to maintain order. "Order! Silence!" the Aquarine commanded, but even he looked uncertain. Back, in the human enclave, a young aide whispered, "They'll try to punish us for this." Elise nodded grimly. "Let them. We've crossed a line and they'll make us pay." Over the next days, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Sanctions, trade embargoes on Earth, restrictions on human-led scientific projects. The Council's disapproval was more than a rebuke. It was a siege. But in Earth's sprawling command center on Luna Base, humanity's leaders gathered, their faces illuminated by glowing holo displays showing the latest diplomatic strikes. President Anika Desai's hands rested firmly on the table. "They want to isolate us, cripple us." Elise, standing nearby, responded, "Then we walk away, no more puppetry." A heavy silence followed. "No," Anika said at last. "Not just walk away, cut the cord entirely. Let them see what a galaxy without humanity looks like." The room exploded in murmurs. "Are we ready for that?" asked General Tariq Malik. "The Council holds all the cards. Without our alliance, we lose access to critical resources." Elise's eyes burned with conviction. "We hold the wild card, unpredictability. The Council can't replace us. They don't understand what they're up against." And so, the decision was made. Earth would formally resign from the Galactic Council. A first in recorded history. The Itapon announcement was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Elise Rourke's voice rang out over the comm channels, resolute and unyielding. "The Galactic Council has chosen to silence humanity's voice. We choose to walk away, not out of weakness, but as a testament to our strength. You wanted less of us. You will get none." Reactions were instantaneous. Some worlds cheered secretly, others seethed with anger. Many simply watched, unsure of what this unprecedented move would bring. Within the council chamber, Ambassador Kalev Ta slammed his clawed fist on the desk. "This is an act of war," he snarled, but the Aquarine president raised a calming hand. "Let us not fracture further. We will convene emergency sessions to respond." Yet beneath the composed facade, fear had taken root. Later that evening, beneath the cold stars of Luna, Elise stared out at Earth's shining cities below. A whisper of doubt crept in. Could humanity really stand alone in a universe built on fragile alliances? Then she shook her head, steeling herself. Let them come. The day humanity walked away was not the day they fled. It was the day the galaxy's foundations began to tremble. And no one would ever forget it. The silence in the council chambers following Earth's withdrawal announcement was deafening. Alien delegates stared at their consoles, struggling to process the shock. No species had ever dared to sever ties with the Galactic Council. To them, it was unthinkable, like a limb deciding it no longer belonged to the body. But on Earth, the mood was different. In the command center beneath Luna's glass domes, the hum of technology filled the air like a steady heartbeat. Large, hollow screens displayed news feeds, data streams, and real-time communications from across human space. Ambassador Elise Rourke stood before a wall of screens, each showing a different sector of the galaxy, none responding to Earth's broadcasts. No calls for reconciliation, no appeals for dialogue. Cut off, she muttered. They've shut us out completely. President Annika Desai entered the room, flanked by her senior advisors. Her gaze was cold but resolute. They've enacted the embargoes. Our trade routes are blocked. Scientific collaboration projects are suspended. They want us isolated, Annika said, pacing slowly. General Tariq Malik folded his arms. We're cut off from crucial resources, rare elements, starship components, medical supplies. The Council's strategy is to starve us into submission. Elise's jaw clenched. They underestimate what we're made of. A technician interrupted, projecting an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council itself. The voice was firm, official. Earth Command, this is the Council President. Cease all unauthorized operations in Zorthak and neighboring sectors immediately. Failure to comply will be met with military enforcement. Elise's eyes blazed. They're threatening us. Annika nodded grimly. They're telling us to crawl back into line, but we won't. The room fell silent for a moment, before Elise broke it. Then we send them a final message. Her voice echoed with determination. We walk away. The words rippled through Earth's leadership like a shockwave. We resign. Full withdrawal, Annika declared. No more compromises. No more council demands. The command center burst into activity. Messages were drafted, broadcasts prepared. Humanity was taking its stand, not with weapons but with defiant independence. On every inhabited planet and colony in Terran space, transmissions surged across networks. Elise's voice was calm but fiery as she addressed billions. For too long we bent our will to a council that fears what it cannot control. Today, humanity steps beyond their shadows. We will chart our own course among the stars. We will protect our own, defend what is right, and never again bow to decrees that betray our values. The Council's loss is the galaxy's reckoning. We walk away, stronger, freer, unbroken. As the final words faded from the universal frequencies, a shadow fell over the command center's displays. The transmission signal was abruptly cut. Annika's fingers flew across her console. They've jammed us. Total communication blackout. Typical council tactics, Malik growled. But we have one move left. Prepare the fleet. In a vast orbital hangar, the human fleet shimmered in the glow of Luna's sun. Sleek warships of varied classes, frigates, cruisers, carriers were powered up, crews running final checks. The announcement had galvanized every soldier, pilot, and engineer. Commander Elise Rourke walked among them, her presence a beacon. She stopped before the flagship Indomitable, its hull emblazoned with Earth's emblem. Ready to fly, she told her XO, Captain Marcus Reed. Reed nodded. For Earth. For humanity. But beneath the rallying cries, questions gnawed. Could Earth survive alone? The Council controlled nearly every major trade route and resource hub. Without allies, humanity faced a future of isolation and hostility. Just as those doubts crept in, A low rumble shook Luna base. The fleet's sensors flared red. An unidentified formation dropped out of hyperspace near the Sol system. "Contact! Incoming Council fleet," the tactical officer called. Elise's gaze sharpened. "They've come to enforce their will. We warned them. We will not be controlled." The tension in the hangar was electric as the two fleets faced off. Hundreds of Council warships, their dark hulls bristling with weapons, loomed against the backdrop of Earth's shimmering cities. But Earth's ships did not retreat. Instead, Elise gave the order. "Raise shields. Prepare to defend our home." In the tense minutes that followed, diplomatic channels crackled with hurried messages from the Council's commanders. "Stand down, Earth. Submit, and we will negotiate terms." Elise's reply was broadcast galaxy-wide. "Humanity will not be caged. We defend what is ours but do not seek war. This is your last warning. Back off or face the consequences." The Council fleet held position, but no immediate attack came. Behind the scenes, whispers spread. Was Earth stronger than they assumed? Had they underestimated the human capacity for resilience and defiance? And on Luna, beneath the cold stars, Elise stared into the void. The die was cast. They forced our hand. Now, we play to win. The silence after the standoff was not peace. It was a quiet before a storm. The Council fleet lingered just beyond the outer belt of the Sol system, a dark reminder of the fragile truce hanging by a thread. But Earth was no longer listening to their demands. Terraforming stations that had once dotted the edges of newly settled worlds went dark, their hum of life support and machinery fading like ghosts. On distant colonies, systems that had relied on human engineers suddenly lost critical maintenance. Power grids failed. Hydroponic farms wilted. Communication arrays fell silent. In the Zorthak system, where humanity's intervention had sparked, the conflict refugee camp struggled to survive without supplies and medical personnel. Council species who had once benefited from human innovation now faced the fallout of a sudden withdrawal. Dr. Leon Wei, a leading AI architect and a close ally of humanity, stood alone in her lab on the orbiting station Aegis 9. The room was dim, filled with holographic blueprints and neural interface pods. She stared at the cascading error messages flooding her console. "The neural translation core is offline again," she muttered, frustration edging her voice. "Without human-coded updates, the AI struggles to interpret alien communications. It's like losing the thread of a conversation." Her assistant, a small drone named Kix, floated beside her. "Dr. Wei, several terraforming grids on Beta Prime have gone offline. The emergency protocols are failing." Leon's eyes darkened. "We warned the Council. The infrastructure is too reliant on Terran expertise. Without us, this alliance was always going to unravel." Far below, the Council worlds were beginning to realize the depth of their mistake. A convoy of Jathari vessels approached the shattered moon of Vorath, a former human research hub now abandoned. Ambassador Kalevta led the delegation. His usual arrogance was tempered by grim urgency. "We must ask Earth to return," he said quietly to his aide, voice barely above a whisper. "Their absence has left us vulnerable. We cannot hold the balance without them." But pride was a cruel master. Publicly, Kalevta declared Earth a traitor to the Council and an enemy to galactic order. Privately, his nights were haunted by visions of a crumbling alliance. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Elise Rourke received the intercepted message from the Jathari envoy pleading for talks. Her fingers hovered over the console. The room was tense as her closest advisors watched her deliberation. "Reply?" Annika asked softly. Elise shook her head. "No, we walked away for a reason." Her eyes flicked to the holomap showing the deteriorating systems. The Council's grand network was unraveling, thanks to them, but also because it had depended too heavily on humanity. In the outer colonies, chaos brewed. Pirate factions, long kept in check by Earth's enforcement fleets, now roamed freely. Trade convoys were ambushed, smuggling surged. Lawlessness spread like wildfire. Reports came in. A medical facility on Epsilon Prime lost power during a viral outbreak. Without Terran bioengineers, cures were delayed. Death tolls mounted. Elise grimaced as she read the reports. Humanity had walked away, yes, but their absence had become a wound that festered across the galaxy. But no one had expected what came next. A Council-controlled AI research station near the Vale Nebula suffered a catastrophic failure. The core reactor melted down, releasing a wave of radiation and destroying the nearby colony of Halden 4. The cause was traced back to a software glitch, an error humans had patched for years. Council leaders panicked. "We underestimated how indispensable they were," whispered a voice in the Council's war room. Back on Luna, the mood was grim. Elise convened a meeting with President Desai and General Malik. "We gave them a warning," Elise said quietly. "We told them what would happen if they pushed us away. This is the result." Annika nodded slowly. "The Council is unraveling, but so are we. Our supply lines are stretched thin. The embargoes bite harder every day." Tariq leaned forward, voice sharp. "If this keeps up, it won't be long before the pirates overrun the outer colonies. Without Earth's fleet policing the borders, we lose control." Elise's jaw tightened. "Then we don't just defend. We take back control. We build something new, something stronger." A flicker of determination crossed Annika's face. A galaxy without the Council's chains. In the quiet that followed, the ghost of a promise lingered. The day humanity walked away was not just a reckoning for the Galactic Council. It was the beginning of a reckoning for the galaxy itself. And somewhere in the depths of space, the wheels of a new future began to turn. The galaxy was quieter than it had been in centuries, but the silence was deceptive. Beneath the stillness, the threads of old alliances were unraveling, and new dangers lurked in the shadows. Trade routes that had once thrummed with traffic now lay barren, star freighters and merchant vessels few and far between. The economic arteries of the Council's vast empire were clogged, strangled by embargoes and fractured trust. The Council blamed humanity's withdrawal for the chaos, but many whispered a darker truth. The Council's grip had weakened far before Earth walked away. In the shadow of this breakdown, piracy surged. The Varkun Marauders, a ruthless band of space raiders with no allegiance, tore through the outer sectors. Their brutal raids left devastated colonies and shattered supply lines. The Council's fleet, already stretched thin, struggled to respond. Council Admiral Rilthak gritted his teeth as he reviewed incoming reports. "Pirates hit the trade convoy to Delta Vex. Losses are severe. We cannot hold these routes alone." From the command bridge of the Stormbreaker, Rilthak's frustration boiled. "We need Earth's fleet. Without their advanced tactics and technology, we are fighting blind." A communication request flashed on his console. He tapped it urgently. The screen filled with the holographic image of a Jithari envoy, Ambassador Jelkara, her slender features marked by worry. "We need your support," Jelkara pleaded. "Our worlds cannot survive this chaos without your aid. The Council's forces are faltering, and the Varkun Marauders grow bolder by the day." Rilthak's voice was grim. "The humans remain silent. Their withdrawal is absolute." Jelkara's eyes darkened. "If they refuse, many will die." Meanwhile on Luna, Elise Rourke watched the message with cold calculation. "Another plea for mercy," she said, voice low but fierce. "They begged us before and condemned us behind closed doors." Annika Desai stood beside her, brows furrowed. "Ignoring them means letting the galaxy fall apart. We should help." Elise shook her head. "No. We don't owe them anything. If they wanted humanity, they should have treated us as equals, not pawns." But even as they debated, a far stranger visitor arrived. Late one night, a shadow ship, a sleek, almost invisible vessel, slipped silently into orbit around Luna. From its concealed docking bay emerged a lone figure, Ambassador Arthal, AI, rogue Jithari diplomat with a reputation for defiance. He approached the command center with urgent steps. "Elise Rourke," he said without preamble, "I come with a plea, on behalf of the Jithari and others who fear what's coming." Elise narrowed her eyes. Speak quickly. We're not interested in council politics. Rithal's voice was low but tense. The council fractures, and with it the forces that kept the galaxy stable. The Varkun marauders are only the beginning. Worse threats lurk beyond the known sectors. We need your strength, or all will be lost. Elise studied him, weighing the truth in his words. You want us back in the fold? No, Rithal shook his head. Not the council, but a new alliance. One where humanity leads, not follows. The idea hung in the air, heavy with possibility and peril. Back on the outer colonies, the consequences of silence were growing dire. On Epsilon Prime, the medical facility that had lost power during the viral outbreak was now overrun by desperate refugees. Without Earth's bioengineers, the outbreak spiraled. Local security forces abandoned their posts. The colony teetered on the brink of collapse. News reached Luna through encrypted channels. Elise clenched her fists. This is what happens when we walk away. Annika nodded, but her expression was troubled. We wanted to prove we could survive, alone. But survival means more than strength, it means responsibility. Elise turned to the holomap showing the Varkun marauders' latest attacks. Smoke rising from burning outposts. Colonies screaming for help. They want to see us broken, Elise said. They think isolation will make us weak. But it's the silence that kills, Annika replied. If we refuse to act, we lose everything we fought for. The room was silent as they weighed the gravity of their choices. That silence was shattered when an emergency broadcast lit the screens galaxy-wide. The Council capital worlds were under attack. An unknown fleet, fast and heavily armed, struck without warning. The technology signature was unmistakably human. Explosions rocked the once proud planets. Defense grids faltered. Panic swept through the Council's ruling elites. In the command center on Luna, Elise watched the destruction unfold with a mixture of triumph and foreboding. We warned them, she said. Now the galaxy will see what humanity can do. On our own terms. As the battle raged, the echoes of silence were broken by the roar of warships and the distant cries of a galaxy on the brink of transformation. The Council's capital worlds burned. From Luna's command center, Elise Rourke watched the holographic feeds flicker and pulse with images of blazing cities and shattered starports. The familiar, austere halls of the Council's headquarters, on Varath Prime, were alight with chaos. Security forces scrambling, political leaders fleeing, and warships crippled in orbit. This is no ordinary assault, General Tariq Malik said, voice grim. This is precision warfare. Whoever is behind, this knows exactly how to dismantle their defenses. Elise nodded, her jaw clenched. And they're sending a message. President Annika Desai stood silent, her gaze fixed on the map of devastation. The Council underestimated us. Now, we've shattered the covenant that held this galaxy together. For centuries, the Council's fleets, once considered the most disciplined and technologically advanced, were reeling. Their ships struggled to respond to the sudden coordinated strikes targeting command centers, communication hubs, and vital infrastructure. On the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, Captain Marcus Reed barked orders. All units engage defensive. Protocols deploy countermeasures and maintain formation. Despite their efforts, waves of sleek, dark vessels tore through Council lines, their weaponry cutting through shields like paper. This technology, Malik muttered, it's human, but evolved, stealthier, faster, deadlier. Elise turned to her operations chief. Our engineers have been developing these prototypes in secret. They're ready. We can't lose the momentum now, she said, eyes blazing. This is our moment to redefine the galaxy's future. Meanwhile, on Varath Prime, Ambassador Kelev Ta fought to rally his fractured government. We must unite, he insisted, voice trembling with desperation. Without humanity, we are vulnerable. We need their aid, even if it means bending to their terms. His words fell on deaf ears. Many Council delegates blamed the entire catastrophe on human defiance. Pride and fear clouded reason. In a private chamber, Kalevta's aide whispered urgently. They're considering negotiating with the rebels, the independent factions rising in the outer systems. The Council's authority is crumbling. The warning sent a cold chill through Kalevta. The galaxy's balance was breaking. Back on Luna, Elise convened a war council. We will not bow, she declared. But we must be strategic. The Council's weakness is opportunity, Annika agreed. We should offer aid to those willing to break from the old order. We don't need their alliance, we need their cooperation. General Malik frowned. That will make enemies as well as allies. The Council loyalists will fight tooth and nail. Elise smiled grimly. Then we show them what happens when you try to stop humanity's rise. Across the fractured systems, a surge of rebel factions, former Council members and colonies weary of old politics, answered Earth's call. On the mining world of Greska 4, local militia prepared to declare independence from the Council's control. Their leader, Commander Rena Voss, received a cryptic message from Earth's fleet. We stand with you. The galaxy is changing. Rena smiled grimly, rallying her troops. The time for shadows is over. We fight for freedom. Elsewhere, the Varkun marauders, sensing weakness, surged deeper into Council territory. Their brutal raids grew bolder, striking even the most fortified outposts. Council forces struggled to contain the chaos, their authority slipping like sand. On Luna, Elise monitored the chaos with a mix of satisfaction and resolve. We broke the old order, she said quietly. Now we build the new. But beneath the surface, dangers lurked. Unknown to Earth's leaders, a secret faction within the Council was mobilizing, an extremist cabal determined to crush humanity's defiance at any cost. Ambassador Zhelkara, once a supplicant, now emerged as a firebrand leader, rallying loyalists to a final, ruthless campaign. Humanity's arrogance will be their doom, she vowed. We will restore order, even if the galaxy burns. As the flames of war consumed star systems, the shattered covenant that once held the galaxy in balance lay in ruins. And from the ashes, a new power was rising, one forged in rebellion, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The Sartor War was no longer a distant battle fought in the void of space. It was a tempest tearing through every star system, every colony, and every soul caught in its path. The galaxy was fracturing, and humanity stood at the eye of the storm. In Luna's command center, Elise Rourke's gaze burned into the glowing tactical maps. The once cohesive Galactic Council had splintered into factions, some eager to negotiate, others determined to crush the human rebellion by force. The rebel colonies were growing bolder, rallying under Earth's banner. But the Council loyalists were ruthless, mobilizing fleets and mercenaries with lethal intent. Status report, Elise demanded, voice sharp. Captain Marcus Reed stepped forward. The Council loyalists have launched coordinated strikes on 3 of our outposts in the Orion sector. Our defenses held but barely. They're adapting quickly. General Tariq Malik's face was grim. They're hitting us hard to break our supply lines. If they succeed, our fleet could be stranded in hostile space. Elise clenched her fists. We can't let that happen. We fight smarter, faster. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the main screen. Incoming vessel signatures. Approaching Luna orbit. Unknown fleet detected, the sensor officer announced. High-speed stealth signature, no identification. The room tensed. Elise's eyes narrowed. Prepare defense protocols, this could be an ambush. The fleet arrived in an instant. Sleek, angular warships cloaked in shadows, their weapons humming with lethal energy. They were unlike any Council ships or known rebel vessels. Elise's voice was steady but urgent. Identify them. The comm officer's eyes widened. It's the Nihari. A collective gasp rippled through the room. The Nihari were a legendary faction, a mysterious and ancient race of warriors who had long remained isolated beyond the galactic rim. Known for their advanced technology and brutal efficiency, they had previously avoided involvement in Council affairs. Why now? Annika Desai asked, voice barely above a whisper. Elise shook her head. If the Nihari are here, It means the galaxy's balance is collapsing beyond even the Council's control. The Nihari flagship transmitted a cold message. Humanity's reckoning is at hand. Surrender or be annihilated. The threat was clear. The Nihari viewed Earth's defiance not as rebellion, but as an existential threat demanding immediate eradication. Elise's expression hardened. We're not surrendering. As the Nihari fleet deployed to encircle Luna, Elise gave the order. Prepare for battle. This fight will decide the fate of humanity. The clash that followed was fierce and unrelenting. Luna's orbital defenses fired with calculated precision, but the Nihari ships were faster and more heavily armed. Energy beams tore through shields. Missiles streaked across the void. Captain Reed coordinated dogfights with unmatched skill. Keep them off the surface. Protect the city. In the midst of the battle, a sudden explosion rocked the command center. A cyber attack breached the base's systems, plunging critical sectors into darkness. We're under internal attack, the tech officer yelled. Saboteurs have infiltrated the network. Elise's heart raced. The Nihari strike was not just external. Someone inside was working against them. She barked orders to security teams. Lock down all sectors. Find the traitors. As emergency lights flickered, Elise moved to the secondary command post. Rallying the officers. We cannot afford to fracture now, she said fiercely. Trust in each other. We fight as one. Outside, the battle raged on. In space, human pilots executed daring maneuvers, exploiting the enemy's blind spots. General Malik led a squadron in a desperate assault aimed at the Nihari flagships. Weapon arrays. Focus fire on the main cannon, Malik commanded through comms. Disable it or we're done. Explosions rippled across the Nihari ship. For a moment, hope surged, but the enemy was relentless. The flagship unleashed a devastating salvo, crippling several human cruisers. Elise gritted her teeth. We need a miracle. As the battle teetered on the edge of disaster, a surprise arrived. Rebel factions from the outer colonies, once hesitant to act, launched a coordinated assault on the Nihari rear fleet. Their ships surged like a tidal wave, breaking the encirclement. Elise seized the moment. All units push forward, break their formation. The combined forces shattered the Nihari assault, forcing their fleet into retreat. As silence returned to Luna's orbit, Elise allowed herself a breath. But the cost was clear. The base was damaged, lives lost, and the shadow of internal betrayal lingered. We've won the battle, not the war, Elise said quietly. The storm is rising and humanity must be ready. Annika approached, placing a steady hand on Elise's shoulder. We'll face it, together. Elise nodded, eyes scanning the stars. The galaxy was a tempest of chaos and change. But one truth was certain. Humanity would not back down. Not now. Not ever. The brief reprieve after the battle with the Nihari was fragile, like the last embers of a dying fire. Luna's orbital defenses still smoldered, damaged but defiant. The cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone. Ships lost, lives sacrificed, and the gnawing knowledge that the internal betrayal had not been fully rooted out. Elise Rourke sat in the war room, staring at a flickering holomap filled with red zones of conflict and turmoil. The galaxy was a powder keg, and every spark risked igniting an inferno. Reports from the outer colonies are alarming, Annika Desai said, breaking the silence. The rebel factions we once supported are now fractured, some turning to piracy and warlordism. Elise's voice was cold but firm. Freedom without unity is chaos. We need to bring order to the rebellion or it will consume itself. Her words hung heavy. Commander Rena Voss, leader of the Greska 4 militia, sat tensely at the edge of the table via comlink. The colonies are desperate, supplies are low, loyalty is fragile. Some see Earth's support as a lifeline, others as a leash. Elise nodded. We will increase aid, but we must also forge a common cause stronger than fear. Suddenly, the room darkened as an encrypted transmission cut through the static. The message was from an unexpected source. Ambassador Arthal, the rogue, Jathari diplomat who had once pleaded for alliance. Elise. His voice crackled with urgency. There's a plot within the Council Loyalists. A secret cabal plans to unleash a bioweapon capable of wiping out entire colonies, including Luna. The room froze. Annika's eyes widened. A bioweapon? But that would be genocide. Rithal's voice was grave. They see it as necessary, to crush the rebellion and reassert control. If they succeed, millions will die. Elise's mind raced. We need proof. Meet me on Varath Prime, Rithal said. I will provide evidence. But the Council, Loyalists are watching. The risk was immense. Traveling to the heart of enemy territory to expose a deadly conspiracy. Annika glanced at Elise. We can't ignore this, but it's a trap waiting to happen. Elise's jaw tightened. If it's true, we must stop it, even if it costs us everything. That night, under the cloak of darkness, Elise and a small team slipped through shadow routes aboard a stealth frigate bound for Varath Prime. The journey was tense, every sensor ping a potential threat. As they approached the once majestic capital world, ruins of battle still scarred the atmosphere. On the ground, the city was a ghost of its former self. Abandoned streets, flickering power grids, and an eerie silence. In a hidden chamber beneath, the shattered council chambers, Rithal awaited, holding a data crystal. This contains records of the bioweapon project, he explained. Codenamed Nemesis, it's being rushed to completion. Elise inserted the crystal into her reader. Images and documents flooded the screen. Research labs, viral schematics, deployment plans. This is monstrous, she whispered. Suddenly, alarms blared. We've been compromised, Rithal hissed. Council Loyalists have found us. They raced through shadowed corridors, dodging patrols and gunfire. Elise fired her pulse rifle with deadly precision. We can't let this weapon be unleashed. As they reached the extraction point, an explosion rocked the facility. The first strike of the Loyalists' desperate attempt to silence the truth. Outside, their stealth frigate hovered, engines ready. They leapt aboard, fleeing into the night. Sky as missiles streaked after them. Back on Luna, the evidence was broadcast galaxy-wide. The revelation sparked outrage. Protests erupted on Council worlds. Rebel factions rallied with renewed purpose. The Council Loyalists were exposed as extremists willing to sacrifice billions to maintain power. But the danger was far from over. In the shadows, Shelkara and her cabal prepared their final gambit. They would unleash Nemesis. Elise stared at the data, resolve hardening. We stop this, no matter the cost. Annika stepped forward. The galaxy is burning. It's time to fight not just for survival, but for the future we believe in. Elise met her gaze. Then we burn the old world down to build the new one. The flames of rebellion roared to life, and as the galaxy braced for the inevitable storm, one thing was clear. Humanity's fight was far from over. The galaxy teetered on the edge of annihilation. Nemesis, the bioweapon of unimaginable devastation, loomed like a specter over star systems already ravaged by war. The secret laboratories deep within the ruins of Varath Prime prepared to unleash it, their countdown ticking toward oblivion. Elise Rourke stood on Luna's highest observation deck, staring into the swirling nebulae beyond. The fate of billions rested on a knife's edge. Her team had the location of the final launch site, and a fleet was assembling for a desperate strike. Annika Desai joined her, the weight of leadership etched on her face. We have to end this, Elise. If Nemesis is deployed, nothing will survive. Elise nodded. Then we fight, not just for humanity, but for every species enslaved by fear and tyranny. The assault fleet launched under the cover of darkness. Earth's newest warships led the charge, sleek and powerful, bristling with advanced weapons, designed to dismantle the Council Loyalists' last bastion. As they approached the launch site, the enemy fought with brutal desperation. Loyalist ships swarmed like angry hornets, missile salvos and laser beams painting the void with deadly streaks. Elise piloted her flagship through the chaos, coordinating attacks and defenses with precision born from years of battle. Target the launch facility, she ordered. We cannot allow Nemesis to take flight. Explosions rocked the surface as bombardments rained down, but the Loyalists were prepared. Suddenly, a massive shockwave rippled through the battle, an internal detonation triggered by saboteurs within the Loyalist ranks, aimed at destroying the facility and everything nearby. Elise barely escaped the blast's deadly grip. The strike team deployed on the ground amid chaos and crumbling ruins. Explosions echoed as they raced to disable the viral launch systems. Rena Voss led the ground assault, fierce and determined. "We don't have much time." Inside the command center, Elise and her team fought through armed guards and automated defenses. As they reached the main console, a chilling realization struck them. Nemesis was not a single weapon, it was a network. If one system was destroyed, others could trigger automatically across the galaxy. Elise's comm crackled. "We need a shutdown sequence now." Annika's voice answered, steady and clear. "I'm uploading the override codes." Minutes stretched like hours as the team worked frantically, cutting power, overriding security protocols, and dodging lethal counterattacks. Then, with a final keystroke, the systems began to shut down. The countdown froze. Nemesis was stopped. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but victory came with sacrifice. As Elise led her team back to extraction, Loyalist reinforcements surrounded them. A fierce firefight erupted. Rena was wounded but smiled through the pain. "We bought the galaxy time." Elise helped her to the shuttle, the engines roaring to life. As they lifted off, she glanced down at the burning ruins of the facility. The old order was crumbling. Back on Luna, the aftermath was both grim and hopeful. The Council Loyalists had been shattered, their extremist plans exposed and dismantled. Rebel factions united under a new banner, one led by humanity but open to all who sought freedom and cooperation. Elise addressed a gathered assembly of leaders and citizens, her voice resonant and determined. "We have faced the abyss and stared into the void. We chose to fight, not for domination but for survival and renewal." Annika stood beside her, the first woman elected as leader of the new Galactic Alliance. "We will build a future not bound by fear, but by trust. The galaxy is vast, and our journey has only begun." Outside, stars twinkled with new promise. "Ambassador." Orthal, now a key ally, approached Elise quietly. "The galaxy will remember this day, the day humanity reshaped destiny." Elise smiled, exhaustion and hope mingling in her eyes. "We shattered the Galactic Council, but from the shards, we forged a new order." As the dawn light bathed Luna's surface, humanity and its allies prepared to write the next chapter in the cosmos. A chapter of resilience, unity, and endless possibility. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready.